Hey guys, and welcome. My name is Jennifer Dixon, coach here with Fittr. And in today's video, I want to cover just a few of the standing power yoga poses and how you can perform them. We will assume that you're a little bit warm, so go ahead and stretch and get yourself warmed up before you just hop into any of these postures. But these are definitely beginner-friendly power yoga poses. I'll demonstrate them first, and then we will hold them each for about 5 breaths. Then at the very end, we're going to link them together so that you can see and feel the benefits of a power yoga class. So, are you ready? Okay, but before we do, make sure you hit like and subscribe to this channel. Okay, so the very first power yoga pose that I want to do with you today is called Warrior 1 or Virabhadrasana 1. A couple of things I want you to keep in mind with this pose and all of the standing poses is we always start with a really strong core. Our bellies are nice and engaged. A cue that you may hear is belly button to spine, or it's sometimes called Uddiyana Bandha. That's really getting your transverse abdominals nice and strong, which will help to protect your back. Another thing that I want you to be aware of is that we have a nice neutral spine. That usually means we have a little bit of a pelvic tilt forward, but we're not trying to do the super scoop necessarily. We just don't want to have a cheerleader bottom either. In order to have a nice, strong, and engaged transverse abdominals, it's going to help you to lengthen down through the spine. Another cue, at least for Warrior 1 for you to think about, is in classes you may hear heel to heel alignment. That is, of course, the ideal, but if that's too much for your hips, we can take it a little bit wider, and I'll demonstrate both. So are you ready? All right, so set up for your Warrior 1 or Virabhadrasana A or 1 pose. You're gonna ground down a whole bunch through the right foot, and then we're gonna set the left foot back at the back of the mat. I'll demonstrate it first and then we'll do it together. You ready? So we're gonna shoot that left foot back at the back of the mat like we were about to lunge. Notice that the left toes are facing the front left corner of the mat. If you can do the heel to heel alignment, you're gonna make sure that your left heel is basically right behind the right, 3 to 5 feet behind it, depending on how long your legs are. Working your left hip forward, you want your shoulders to be square forward. Your hands can be here at heart center, or they can be reaching up, pinkies towards each other, or hands all the way together. Now, if you really struggle getting your hips to be straight forward, go ahead and take your left foot out to the left just a little bit. That makes this pose a little bit easier and more compassionate to your left hip flexor. All right, so you ready to try to do that together? Awesome. Ground down a whole bunch through that left foot. Soften the knees on both of them. Now we're going to pick up that right leg and we're going to shoot that right leg back to the back of the mat. Right toes are facing the front right corner of the mat. Remember, if you can do this heel to heel alignment, working the right hip forward, right shoulder forward, and hands forward, that's awesome. But if that's too much for the right hip flexor, take that right foot out towards the side a little bit, like you're standing on railroad tracks, and try that. That left knee is nice and bent. We're gonna hold this posture here for 5 breaths. You ready? Let's try to breathe in through our nose, out through your nose. Two more breaths as we bend into that left knee. One more breath. Beautiful. We're going to push off, bring that right foot forward. Now let's do it on the right side together. Ground down a whole bunch through the right foot. Pick up that left foot. Shift the left foot back to the back of the mat. Remember, if you can do heel to heel alignment, awesome, but you don't have to. Take that foot out wide if it's too much for that hip flexor. Hands can be here at your heart center, or they can be reaching up, maybe hands together overhead. If you can do your hands together overhead, see if you can look up, and let's hold this here for 5 breaths. Belly's in. Tailbone's down. Last one. Beautiful work. Releasing this pose as we bring that left foot forward to meet the right. The next pose that we're going to talk about is Warrior Two. The main difference between Warrior One and Warrior Two is when you're in Warrior One, your hips are and chest, everything's reaching forward. When you're in Warrior Two, your body is opened up to the side. So watch me demonstrate it first. I'm going to demonstrate it on the right, then we're going to do it together. You ready? So we're going to set up just the same as Warrior One with that right foot planted onto the mat. We send that left foot to the back of the mat, but this time the left foot is parallel to the back of your mat. You have heel to arch alignment here, so that means your right heel is basically in the middle of your left foot if you were to draw a line. There's about 3 to 5 feet between your legs, depending on how long your legs are. Your right knee is bent as much as you can while still trying to open up your hips to the side. Your hands are reaching in opposite direction and you look over that right middle finger. Make sure you rotate those shoulders down and away from the ears. Keep the belly nice and strong and lengthen down through the tailbone. What's going to want to happen is your right knee is going to want to cave in. Try not to let that happen. Try to point the right knee to the outside corner of your right foot. So like you're trying to point it to your pinky and fourth toe. You gaze over that right middle finger, sink into the knees, and really try to breathe into those hips to open them up. You ready to try it together? Let's go for it. I'm going to face this way so you can see a different angle. We're going to have those, this time we'll do it on the left. Left toes are facing forward. Plant those toes in really, really firmly so they're nice and strong, okay? You're going to pick up that right foot, make the right foot be parallel to the back of the mat. Sinking down into that left knee, tailbone is long, belly's in, hands reaching in the opposite direction, gazes over those left middle fingers. Let's stay here for 5 breaths. Try to keep those shoulders down and away from the ears. Think about trying to rip the part away, like rip it in two in between your feet, while simultaneously drawing the energy up in between your thighs. One more breath. Beautiful. Take a big step forward, coming to the top of your mat. Let's do that on the other side. This time your right foot's grounded down a whole bunch into the mat. You're going to lift the left foot up, shoot it to the back of the mat. Back of the foot is parallel to the back of the mat. Maybe you have heel to arch alignment. If you don't, you can wiggle your foot around, your front foot around as much as you need to make your hips feel okay. Belly's in, tailbone's down, hands reach in the opposite direction. Front knee is reaching towards the pinky toe side of that toe. Gaze over those middle fingers. Let's stay here for another 4 breaths. That was 1. Sink into that right knee. 2 more breaths. One more. Beautiful. Let's take a big step to the front of the mat, shake out those legs, and get prepared for our next power yoga pose. The next pose that we're going to do is called Utkatasana or chair pose. This is a great pose because it really gets into your glutes and your quads. So it's going to teach you perseverance like it's nobody's business, right? So we have a couple of ways that we can perform this posture. In an Ashtanga alignment, you have toes together, heels apart slightly, a few inches apart. This way you can squeeze your knees together a whole bunch to engage your inner thighs. When you come down to seated, but we're not trying to stick our bottoms out like we're cheerleaders. We're trying to sit our bottoms down like we're sitting into a chair at our child's kindergarten class. So, toes together, knees together, hands can be here at heart center, and then you sit into your chair. Another way to practice this is feet about hips width distance apart, basically right below your hips, and then again you sit back into your chair. The benefit of this posture is if your hips are wider or you have like issues bringing your knees together, it can be a little bit more compassionate. However, when you have your feet about hips width distance apart and you go to sit in your chair, it's a little bit easier to stick the bottom out and dump into the low back. We're going to do both of them so that you can experience both of them together, and then you can decide which one you like better. All right, so you ready? Let's go ahead and try it. Toes together, heels slightly apart. You can bring your hands to your heart center. It's a little bit easier, or you can reach your hands up and overhead. You ready? Let's do this for 5 breaths. Inhale here. Exhale, let's sit down into our chair. Really squeeze the knees together. Lengthen down through the tailbone. Maybe you reach your hands up and overhead. Reach, reach, reach for another 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful work. Releasing this posture. Shake it out. Now, let's go ahead and practice the chair pose with your feet about hips width distance apart. So, feet come, make sure the outside edges of your feet are about as parallel to the outside edges of your mat as you can. This might feel actually a little bit pigeon-toed, but we're trying to teach our hips to go forward, right? Because a lot of times we like to stand like ducks. So try not to stand like a duck. Having the outside edges of those feet parallel to the back of the mat. Lengthen down through the tailbone. Suck the belly in a whole bunch. Inhale here. Exhale, let's sit it down low. We're going to hold this for a count of 5 breaths. That was 1. Remember, you can bring your hands up and overhead. You can also bring them together, maybe gazing at the fingertips, but try not to let your rib cage flare out. Let's do 2 more breaths. 1 more breath. Beautiful. We're going to come to standing. Shake out those legs. All right. So now you ready to see how we can link all of these postures together and really get a nice burn, but as well as building in the mobility as well as coordination and balance. So we're going to link all of these postures together in a way that's going to get your heart rate up and then hopefully make you feel better once you're done. So I'll demonstrate the sequence first and then we will do it together. You ready? Okay, so we're going to get started in this sequence in our chair pose. I'm going to do it with toes together, heels apart. We're going to hold the chair for 5 breaths. Then we're going to step one leg back into warrior 1 for 5 breaths. Then we're going to open up to warrior 2 for 5 breaths. Then come forward and do it again on the other side. Let me demonstrate it. I'll only demonstrate it holding it 1 breath each for the sake of time, but then we'll do it together holding it for 5 breaths. You're really going to feel this in your legs and in your glutes. So the way you're going to do it is you're going to inhale coming into your chair, maybe hands overhead. Then you're going to take that left foot, step it back, warrior 1. Then you're going to open up, warrior 2. Then we're going to take a big step to the front of the mat, come back into chair pose, and then do that on the other side. So right foot back, warrior 1, open up, warrior 2. Big step forward, chair pose, and release. So you ready to really get your heart rate up, combining just 3 very, very beginner-friendly postures in such a way where it's going to build strength, flexibility, and balance or coordination. And guess what? All of that works your core. So let's go for it. All right, setting up for your chair pose, you can do toes together or heels, hips width distance apart. Yogi's choice. Inhale, let's come into our chair pose. Sit down here, holding this here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring your hands to heart center. It'll make balance a little easier. Step that left foot back, coming into your warrior one. Hands stay here at heart center if that feels okay, or you can reach your hands up. That was one breath. 2, 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Opening up here, warrior two. This time, remember your hips are open up towards the left, gazing over those middle fingers. 3 more breaths. 2 more. Try not to let that knee collapse in. Last breath. Bring your hands back here to heart center. Big step forward to the top of the mat. Let's come back to our chair pose. Hold this for 5, 4. Hands up if you want more challenge. 3, 2. Last one, we can do it. Hands at your heart center. Bring up that right foot. Shift it to the back of the mat, coming into your warrior one here on the left. Really reach the right shoulder forward. That's one breath. Bring the right hip forward if you can. That was 2. Try to sink into that left knee a little more. Last breath here. Now we're going to open up warrior two. Back foot shifts just a little bit to be parallel to the back of the mat. Rotate those shoulders down and away from the ears as we sink into that knee. Let's do 3 more breaths. 2 more breaths. Last breath. Big step to the front of the mat. Come back to this chair pose one more time for 5. Sit low. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. Coming up to standing, shaking out those legs, do a little dance. And there you have it. Those are 3 very basic introductory power yoga poses, how you can do them and how you can link them together to create heat and lengthen the muscles as well as some endurance and stamina. Thanks again for watching. My name is Jennifer Dixon, coach here with Fittr. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you can get all sorts of workouts, cues, motivation, everything you need for your fitness journey. I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.